Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we're doing another objective breakdown. We're going to be looking at two primary objectives from the new Star Wars Legion. And this is a new series we're doing where we're trying to break down the new battle cards and explain them, talk about them a little bit for some people who may look at these and have some confusion on how to approach them. And it's also a collaborative type of video because sometimes you guys will have suggestions and thoughts. Feel free to leave those down in the comment section. We are also doing a larger giveaway than usual. This is running through October, so if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment. That's going to enter you to win a $50 Amazon gift card. This way, again, the cost of expansions are increasing, so this way you can actually get like an entire Riot Control or something like that if you're looking to pick up a Legion expansion. And so to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Let me know down in the comments what you think of these objectives and if you have some different approaches that I haven't talked about, because I think there's a lot of different approaches, and I think there's different strategies that are still emerging and that are always going to evolve as time goes on, and that's a pretty fun thing. First one we're going to talk about today is Close the Pocket. This was one that was actually suggested in comments from the last breakdown. So let's talk about Close the Pocket a little bit. Now this one is kind of straightforward, but it also has some distinct differences in that it's kind of starting you off in the corners, similar to there was one objective in the old Legion that would do this, but it was a little different because it started you in opposite corners. Now it still keeps you on your respective sides of the table, but starts you in the corners. Now it says it starts you in the corners, but really, when you look at this, I want you to remember that you can definitely get out of those corners very, very easily, especially if you have early movement. Now, Close the Pocket has one of the simplest structures as far as setup and scoring, because you've got three objectives, one directly in the center, and then two that are kind of midway through, but equidistant from each player's starting edge. Now, with these three objectives, you're going to have easier access to the two that are on the outside, and the center is the one that everybody starts farthest from. However, the center is worth double points. So at the end of each round, so of course, starting with the second, you're gonna gain one victory point for each of the outside POIs that you secure, and then two for the center POI if you secure that one. Now that is pretty straightforward, but because of the fact that your deployment is a little bit different, it means that people are going to be a little farther from that center POI and are going to have more movement to do. Now this also means that certain setups where you have very slow units, certain setups where you don't have a whole lot of early turn one movement, and that can be units with scout, are going to be useful here, because you're going to want to be able to make sure that you can get to that turn. That center POI by turn 2. Again, you can, because at that point you could afford to forsake both of the left and the right. Now, if you're playing this one, you're probably going to play some games with deployment and where do you activate? Which side of the board are you going to activate first? Are you going to see what your opponent does? Oh, did they just put a really threatening unit on the right side? Okay, well maybe I'll put a really threatening unit on the left side. And there may, usually by the time that round one is like 3/4 of the way over, it's usually going to be fairly apparent which player is going for which side first. It's usually not going to always be a exactly 50-50 split on their units. You're going to favor one side a little bit more than the other side in a lot of matches. At least I would have made. That's how a lot of my deployments tend to go, is I don't necessarily want to go 50-50 because then you're putting too much on the dice. I'd rather have like 60-40 or 75-25, where I can assume you're probably going to get the one on the left, but that means I'm going to probably get the one on the right, and then it's going to kind of boil down to going for the middle one, and then maybe can my forces who are on the left disrupt your larger force just enough to buy me one extra turn or something like that. But if you have faster units, that's going to help you get to the middle. That's going to help. If you have units that have transport, that's going to help you get set up a little bit easier to where getting to that middle is going to be pretty easy. If you got Scout 3, and things like that, that are going to get you out there a little bit farther, that can be really useful. Now, because your friendly territory is going to be so much farther away, things like your mortar turrets and the prepared positions is nice, but it's not going to be as game breaking in this one. But it's still nice. Now, I have some ideas for this one because I think at the end of the day, this one boils down is basically a fight for the middle. And anytime you have a fight for the middle, of course, it's going to be terrain dependent. If the middle's wide open, that's going to be different. If there's a lot of blocking terrain in the middle, then maybe you can have more of a gun line doing stuff that can be potentially, getting their heavy cover and, maybe get some line of sight blockers for those type of units. But in this one, you're going to probably be fighting close quarters for the middle. So I think this one tends to favor a lot of close quarters combat. That's going to be things like Jedi. It's going to be people that can disrupt stuff like maybe Dooku or even Vader with his command cards. He can move things around, pull you off of the point. Force push, of course, is going to be important for that. Close quarters damaging weapons, snow troopers with flame troopers, things like that, things that are really aggressive at up close and personal, where you're going to need to be if you want to take the middle. Again, it's going to be a fight for the middle. And really, really nasty Lotus Bomb command cards like Palpatine's 1-pip. Well, I mean, granted, Palpatine's 1-pip is good lots of times, but I think it's really going to shine anytime you have something that equates to a fight for the middle where everybody is trying to get there right at the end. To score that extra victory point is going to be pretty important. So these are things that I think would kind of cater a little bit more to this, but it's not to say that you have to have these. I think it's kind of an all-comers sort of objective. It's kind of safe for a lot of different builds, but you do want to be prepared for a big slugfest right in the center of the board. You could supplement that with long-range combat, have snipers whittle people down so that your regular units can get the job done up close and personal as well. There's a lot of ways to get it done. But let me know some of your thoughts down in the comments section below. On to objective number 2 today. We're going to talk about bunker assault. This one is a very interesting one. This one is a little bit more straightforward, where we do get that kind of standard deployment in the center of the board. We're kind of going directly at each other. So you're staring at your opponent across the table. You get that regular deployment. But this one has some differences to it. You each have 2 objectives that are on your side. And you also have the ability to destroy your opponent's objectives and score a lot of extra victory points this way. This is a very interesting one. It's a very interesting one. I've played this one twice now, and each time it's been particularly noteworthy. This is a little bit more of a memorable objective because you can actually destroy stuff and then not be able to score off of it anymore. So basically, you're going to place those 4 bunkers. The 2 that are going to be closer to your opponent's territory are going to be enemy bunkers, and the 2 that are closer to your territory are going to be friendly bunkers for you. And that's important to realize because of the way damage and putting damage tokens on them. Long story short, you still have to secure them. You still have to secure. These aren't both this and the other one are secure objectives, which means simply contesting is not good enough. You have to secure, which means you have to move with a force that is going to have and more than your opponent. You need to deny your opponent from getting into your territory and having more than you. And so that's a very important thing. Now, also, this one has a big bonus for commanders, operatives, and special forces. Big bonus for them because if you're able to secure your opponent's territory, you're going to put extra damage on them. So at the end of the round, if each player is just securing their own friendly bunker, okay, that's fine. You're just going to gain a victory point for that. But if you're securing you're going to get a victory point for every bunker that you secure. But if you're securing an enemy bunker, you're also going to put a damage on it. If it ever has 3 damage on it, it's going to blow up, and you're going to get 3 victory points for that one instead of just the 1, which is really, really cool. Which is pretty awesome. Now, you're also going to get a bonus damage because if you have special forces or a commander or an operative that are out there helping secure that enemy bunker, you're going to put a double damage on there. And so you're going to get that 3 much, much sooner. And that's really the best way because, again, the game goes by pretty quickly. You're probably not securing one too early. A lot of times you won't necessarily have one secured by round 2. So for a lot of times, round 3 may be at least from my experience, round 3 is the most realistic time to be able to get in there and secure one of those enemy bunkers, unless your opponent has just left one relatively unarmed. And so to be able to, because they usually start off with their forces all concentrated right there. Usually you have to wait for them to try to overextend, or after a couple of rounds of shooting, if you can whittle down their forces over there and finally get somebody into place. Now, that also means you want to have your special forces, your commanders, your operatives kind of going out there, putting themselves at risk to help get that double damage on there. So this way by turn 4, you know, maybe you've actually got one blowing up, and that might even push you past. Because this one, you can score a lot of points on this one. If in theory you were able to blow up both enemy bunkers, I think it's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, in one turn. I mean, that's unrealistic that you could get, or it's 8, or is it 8 max? But my point is, you could score a lot of points on this one in one round if you played it perfectly. Granted, if you're getting that many points, you've probably almost tabled your opponent already. But this one has a very high scoring potential, and that's cool. And it usually means it leads to shorter games, so you might not actually get all 5 turns with this one. Now, obviously, this one is going to favor units that have lots of extra commanders, operatives, and special forces. I particularly think this is a great option if you're running Mandalorians, because they tend to all be commanders, operatives, and special forces. They also tend to be very fast. One of the important things about this one is being able to move a force surprisingly across the battlefield to try to secure. It's tough to secure an enemy POI. It's tough to grab that objective and to have more than your opponents. Mandalorians are pretty good at being able to do that. They're good close quarters fighters. So if your opponent does have like 1 or 2 units that are like standing guard, you can you can make that big jump with the speed 3 move. You can get a close range combat to them, and you know, a lot of times it can make the difference. Or Jedi with burst of speed are also great options for this particular objective, but I just put Mandalorians up there because I think it's really good. But anything with you have a lot of extra special forces, it's going to work out really well, especially if you're using strike teams, because you can have so many more special forces now. This one very much, there's not too many things that are saying, hey, you can have a whole lot of extra and cheap operatives and commanders. Although if you're running like R2-D2, this is a decent one for him as well, because again, you are trying to go into an objective that's very close to your opponent's territory. But there's definitely a lot of options, but those are just some of my suggestions for these 2 objectives. Let me know what you want to see next. Let me know your thoughts of these objectives in the comments section below, and we will continue doing battle card breakdowns and talking about more for Legion's new edition and all of the changes, and helping keep everybody up to speed. Let me know what you think. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Jump into our Discord. We have Discord links in the video description below, plus other social media links, and Patreon as well if you're interested in that. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much, and big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this channel possible. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. The spice must flow. You can't take the sky from me. Rock and roll, hoochie coo, and always wash your socks.